Hi, this is Dr. Paul with CarInjuryCare.tv, and we answer the most common questions regarding automobile accidents, medical, legal, and we're talking with Dr. Nick Venturino here in North Tampa. And the question we're talking about today is some tips. So what are some common tips to help increase your compensation for your auto injury? So that's the question. So let's just start with some common tips. What would you suggest some of the common tips are to help increase an automobile accident compensation?
Number one, you need to make sure you follow through with your doctor's orders. Nothing looks worse to a jury than saying that you have this permanent injury that is required to get a settlement, but you missed half of your appointments or you had large gaps between appointments.
What about an attorney? Should they get an attorney? Will it help them with their compensation, hurt them? You know, most people think if they get an attorney, it's money out of their pocket.
Obviously, the insurance companies have attorneys, and in my opinion, you definitely need to have an attorney to help combat the knowledge that's on the other side. If you don't know the laws, you don't know how to argue your case, because that's not what you're trained to do and that's not your profession. So in my book, you definitely need to get somebody who is a professional, an attorney that knows the Florida laws, how to work them in your favor, because the other side is certainly using an attorney to work against you.
And you know, most attorneys charge, I think, about a third. Is that what they charge?
25 to
25,
35%.
Have you found that the attorneys are well worth what they're going to pull out of the case or not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, you would probably double what you're going to get with an attorney, or even triple, versus what you would get without one. So if you have to pay them a third, you're still ahead by 2/3.
Okay, so getting an attorney is definitely a plus.
Absolutely.
For increasing your potential compensation.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then what about some of the tests? What about some of the diagnostic tests? What are some of those tests that help increase somebody's compensation, and why?
X-rays are good because they show if there's any fracture or any damage to the bony material, but they're limited in technology. So we utilize CT scans, MRIs, as other tools for diagnostics because they can be much more in depth. They can actually show soft tissue, so we can see if there's ligament damage, or if there's a tendon that's torn, or if the disc has been damaged. So it's a very valuable piece of diagnostics to show things that the X-rays may not show, that would otherwise be hidden. Nerve conduction velocity tests. These are things that even though we know that the nerve is damaged based upon an MRI, we won't know the extent to which it's damaged or which specific nerve, because some nerves carry more weight as far as an impairment rating than other nerves do. So a nerve conduction velocity test can show how badly a nerve is damaged and specifically which nerve has been damaged to help enhance the value of a case by being even more specific and detailed about where the damage is.
Those are some of the common tests you would run if needed, would be nerve conduction tests and MRIs to substantiate the damage to the tissue.
Correct.
And what about second opinion? You know, if you have more than one doctor or not, good or bad?
It's very good, and that's another good rationale for for getting an MRI or a CT. You have a radiologist who is totally separate and independent, but very specialized in their field of medicine to show what we show or what we believe to be going on with our tests. Plus, depending upon what the X-ray or depending upon what the MRI shows, you may refer a patient out to a neurologist, an orthopedic or spine surgeon. And then again, it's not to say you have to have surgery if you go to a surgeon. It's simply to get their expertise and another level of an opinion to say, yes, you do have this problem. It may be bad enough for surgery, it may not, but they're corroborating what the radiologist says and what your other physician says.
So a lot of times it's second opinion.
Or third even. It's good.
Who's some of the common doctors that you would work with?
Neurosurgeons, orthopedic spine surgeons, neurologists, physiatrists, some physical therapists.
So if a patient was in an automobile accident came to you, you could document the injury with all these tests as well as work with all these other types of providers to support their case?
Correct.
So you have these relationships with these other healthcare providers?
Correct.
Okay. And what about restrictions that they have? How do restrictions that they have in their life affect the compensation in a case?
Not to get too graphic, but let's say you're a normal, healthy married couple and you have normal relations. And after an accident, one of you, whoever is injured, cannot have those relations the same way. Well, that's obviously a direct impact on your normal, healthy life that you had before. So those making sure that your doctor understands. You can't raise your arm to curl your hair, to put your lipstick on. You have a hard time brushing your teeth. You can't have normal relations with your spouse. Those are all, they may not seem like a big deal or may even seem like a little embarrassing. I don't want to talk about it. But it's vitally important to document how much this injury has had an impact on your life. And I'm talking everyday life. I mean, it's obvious if you miss 4 days of work because you can't sit at your desk. But not being able to have normal relations with your spouse or having to learn to brush your teeth with the opposite hand because you can't raise your arm up, those are vitally important things on day-to-day problems that you may be stuck with forever that would definitely enhance the value of your case just by knowing them.
So if you have more restrictions relative to that, it could help
Absolutely.
increase your compensation.
Absolutely.
But if you don't tell your doctor, it won't help you then.
Correct. What I don't know can hurt you.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about, I've heard of what's called a certified trial attorney. What does that mean, and is it good to have one or not have one, or what does that mean?
It's obviously better to have a certified civil trial attorney from the standpoint that to get that level of certification, you have to have had a certain number of hours actually trying cases in court. So not just any attorney can call themselves board certified trial attorney. They have to have accomplished a certain number of hours in court arguing cases. Obviously, the more practice they have at that, the better they're going to be. So I believe it's less than 5% of all attorneys are board certified trial attorneys. So you're getting the absolute cream of the crop when you get the board certified trial
Do you try to
attorneys.
work with the certified trial attorney?
Absolutely.
And so in a nutshell, what would you say the top 1, 2, or 3 mistakes people make that actually hurts their case in the potential of increasing their compensation?
Probably number one, not getting a good attorney. Not following through with their doctor's orders as far as following up with diagnostics or with second opinion doctors.
Right.
And not telling the doctor everything that's important in your day-to-day life so that it can be documented and measured and see if we can improve it, number one, to get you back to normal as much as possible. But what we can't, that deficit needs to be measured to substantiate how much damage has been done.
So it sounds like the opposite of that would be true 1, 2, and 3. A good attorney, a doctor that documents an injury very well.
Right.
Does that sound
Absolutely.
to help maximize your compensation?
Right.
Okay. All right, very good. Again, this is Dr. Paul with Car Injury Care TV.